Testing, testing. Can you all hear me? Good. That's it. Right. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming along tonight. It's fabulous to see so many people. We've got a great lineup of speakers for you. My name is John Bodle. I'm chairing this as on behalf of the committee who organised this meeting. And we've just got a couple of quick points, quick domestic points, as they say. In the unlikely event of a fire alarm or anything, the main way out is the way you came in. In an emergency, there's doors either side, and the same applies in the balcony. Main way out, emergency way out if need be. Okay? Also on domestics front, I'm afraid the toilets are all by the front door of the building, if you can head that way. Now, just one remark in opening this. About literally 100 years ago, my grandfather, who I learnt my politics from, set up the Labour Party in the little town where we used to live. And that Labour Party did, in its time, in my grandfather's time, it did a lot of good things for people. It brought the NHS, brought the welfare state, brought massive improvements in education, housing, and so forth. But we all know it's not the same Labour Party now. So it falls to us to repeat the task now that our forebears carried out, which is to set up from scratch a mass party to represent the working class, to represent the ordinary people of this country. And that's what we're here to talk about tonight. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our first speaker. And our first speaker, is just heading to the rostrum now as we speak. Our first speaker is Grace Lewis. Grace was elected... You're clapping too early because I've got to pick her up yet. So Grace Lewis was elected as a Labour councillor for Westwood Ward, joined the new party immediately as it was set up, and Grace is, I've known her over the few months that the new party has been starting, and I would say this: Grace is a doer and a fighter, and that's two very good qualities. So, Grace Lewis.
Inequality is all around. We see it every day. For the families who are choosing between heating and eating, the young people who were promised a world-class education, who are now unable to access decent jobs whilst being saddled with debt, and the pensioners who can't afford the bare essentials. As we know, this is a symptom of a system which rewards wealth and punishes the poor, a system which sole aim is to preserve privilege and the status quo and not to challenge it, one that puts profit and the bottom line before people. Across the country, 7 million people have gone without essentials in the last 6 months, and 4.5 million are behind on household bills. This is not bad luck, but a direct result of an economy which is rigged in the favour of the few, where working class communities shoulder the cost of decisions made by institutions and politicians far from their lived realities. Political choices leave millions across the country, including thousands in Coventry, unprotected from the widening gap between rich and poor. The world has its first half-trillionaire, a single individual holding more wealth than the combined GDP of entire nations, whilst working people struggle to heat their homes, feed their families and access decent housing. For 15 years we have been told there's no money for nurses, teachers and social care, no money for social housing or youth services, but somehow there's always money for war, weapons, surveillance and tax breaks to the 1%. Public spending hasn't declined under austerity but been redirected. redirected towards corporate bailouts, private contracts and handouts to the wealthiest, billions poured into the pockets of energy giants and private landlords, whilst the rest of us are told to accept decline is inevitable. But whilst Westminster and the establishment deliberate, seeking to make liberal concessions in the name of preserving of capital, we can organise. We can start to redistribute power to those who are powerless, give voice to the voiceless, work to elevate political consciousness right here in our communities in Coventry. Because real change doesn't just come from above, it's always been fought from below. It's the people who build this country, who keep it running, who have the power to transform it. Working people, migrant communities, those written off, shut out and ignored. And as the cost of living rises and wages remain stagnant, the far right fill the vacuum left by failed neoliberalism, the politics of hate disguised as common sense, blame directed towards refugees and trans people and not billionaires who are responsible. Meanwhile, the same establishment who is starving children, pensioners and those with disabilities is bombing those in the Middle East. They fund it, they justify it and they profit from it. I'm going to say something now quite unpopular. It's clear that Labour are dead and reform are not the answer, but the Greens are not coming to save us either. The Greens remain a Liberal party with some left-wing policies. Their track record speaks for itself, supporting austerity measures, voting against new housing developments, seeking to maintain diplomatic ties with Israel, running against socialist candidates like Jeremy in the 2024 general election. We need a party which is explicitly socialist and anti-imperialist, one that has class politics at its core. Now, this does not mean we don't enter into alliances and refuse cooperation. In the early days, it's clear we'll have different bases of support. And together, there is potential to challenge both the far right and the neoliberal consensus. By no means is this seeking to undermine the Greens. In Coventry, we have a newly formed Green and Independent Alliance on the council, which I'm part of. And there are certainly shared principles and common ground. But part of doing politics differently is redefining what it means. And it doesn't mean we have to agree on everything. No one said setting up a new political party would be easy, and it definitely hasn't been smooth sailing. But for those who have signed up, we know that it's necessary. We are all attempting to do something which has not been achieved in British history in over a century, to set up a genuine working class party to challenge the establishment. It is a long-term project, and despite the difficulties, I still believe it remains the best chance in at least my lifetime of seeing a socialist party in government. We should not run at the first sight of struggle. Many in this room have been waiting a long time for this, and it's definitely still worth fighting for. So what can we do? We can hold those in power, whoever they may be, to account. We ensure that MPs and councillors we have represent explicitly our politics. And yes, that means no landlords and no transphobes. We put pressure on those organising conference to make it as democratic as possible, ensuring every member gets a voice, a vote and the ability to shape our party's future. When opportunities arise, you put your ideas forward, you put yourselves forward for positions, elections and leadership roles, because this is our party and it needs to be built from the ground up. Zarah has been fighting this from the start to make sure members can shape what this party becomes, but that fight has not been won. We need all to join and lead in the fight. We have work to do, because right now, it should not only be about building something which lasts, but something rooted in our communities, workplaces and the struggles of working people. We can't wait for somebody else to do it. The Labour Party won't, Reform certainly won't, and it's up to us to create a political force that can't be bought or silenced. That means organising in tenants' unions, workplaces and local campaigns, connecting the dots between climate emergency, the cost of living and war, because they're all products of the same rotten system. We also need to build a confidence in people in our communities that we're able to take power back. That means having difficult conversations with those closest to us, with our families, neighbours and colleagues, those who have never voted or engaged in politics, those who are susceptible for the misinformation of our media class peddles, and those convinced by the rise of reform. And when we do engage these people in our movement and bring them along to meetings, we ensure we give them a chance to speak and share their own experiences, whilst also creating space to gently challenge when necessary. No one knows inequality and injustice better than those living through it, and we who have experienced it always have more in common than what divides us. It's our responsibility to educate each other and learn as we seek to do politics differently. There is no shortage of campaigns locally which unite communities who may never have engaged with each other before. In Canley, we are still campaigning to save the library. Across the city, we are campaigning to see Coventry City Council drop Palantir. Comrades from the Socialist Party are campaigning to see free hospital parking, and Birmingham bin strikes are still ongoing, which Coventry City Council are strike breaking for, by the way. Yes. Whether obvious or not, these issues affect us all, connecting our common struggle for a fight for a more equitable future. The establishment may have the money, the media and the power, but we have something better, something stronger, each other. And when working people stand together with courage and conviction, no system built on greed can ever hold us down. Thank you.
Smashing. Thanks very much, Grace. That was great. Now, our second speaker is Matt Reid, who, again, I need to just point to the rostrum. Matt is the convener of the Birmingham bin workers. And I've only just met Matt, but I can say two things from my own experience as convener of a group of workers. A, it's very difficult. B, it's a massive honour. And I'm sure Matt is conscious of both of those things. So, Matt, take it away.
Thank you. We're here today at a time of real challenges for working people in this country. In Birmingham, we face an £8,000 pay cut, a reduction of 20% of our annual income that will have drastic effects on my members' lives, from mortgage rent payments to the general cost of living increase. This will be unbelievable financial and emotional pressure on their families. This is all happening under the control of a Labour government and a council that, instead of standing firmly with working people, are allowing employers to use union-busting tactics and legislation to worsen pay terms and conditions and make industrial action and protest as ineffective as possible. I would like to talk about fire and rehire, because that's what they're using against us in Birmingham. We all know what this is. It's the brutal practice of sacking workers, tearing up contracts and rehiring them on worse pay, worse conditions with fewer rights. We have fought against it in our workplaces, on picket lines and in our communities. We have said enough is enough. Labour promised change. They promised to outlaw fire and rehire in its entirety. But the truth we face today is very different from the promises they made. They want to leave the door open under a Section 114 notice in the public sector that would mean local authorities like mine would still be able to impose this disgraceful practice on its workforce. Think about what that means. It means the very councils that are supposed to serve our communities could use the law to fire and rehire care workers, refuse collectors, teaching assistants, the workers who kept society going, put themselves on the line through COVID and years of austerity. These people would be thrown to the wolves to balance the books for mistakes made by employers and managers that will never be held to account or face the same treatment. To me, that is not justice, that is not solidarity, that is not democratic socialism. This is not a policy disagreement, this is a question of principle. Either you believe in workers' rights or you don't. Either you stand with us and stand with those who create wealth, or you stand with those who exploit it. You cannot sit on the fence, and yet that is exactly... You cannot sit on the fence, yet that is exactly what the Labour leadership is doing. We have to ask ourselves, if Labour won't stand against fire and rehire, if Labour won't defend the most vulnerable in our society, then what is Labour for? Trade unionism at its core is about fairness, equality and dignity at work. It's about lifting up the many, not bowing to the few. It's about saying we refuse to let working people be disposable, to let families be ground down, to let our communities be hollowed out. And if Labour cannot find the courage to live up to those values, then maybe it's time to return to our roots. Maybe it's time to build something new, a party that is unashamedly rooted in unity and solidarity, that demonstrates our values, a party that is rooted in the workplaces and unions, a party that will fight not just for seats in Parliament, but for real material change in people's lives. We know this won't be easy, but we also know that when workers and unions stand together and put their petty differences aside, when we show true solidarity, as I've experienced from so many on our picket lines, that to date, when solidarity becomes more than just a slogan, then we are unstoppable. My members and workers all around the country are being forced to pay the cost of austerity. If we allow them to get away with the draconian tactics in Birmingham, then it will become a roadmap for other local authorities around the country. So the line must be drawn in Birmingham, there and no further. All our combined strength and effort should be massed there to cut this cancer out before it spreads and other workers are forced into the same situation we face now. The Labour amendment allowing fire and rehire in local authorities and public sector organisations that are in financial difficulty is disgusting. Fire and rehire must be banned in its entirety. We have been on strike for 10 months now, with 7 months all-out strike. Our ballot for continued action passed recently with a 99% pass rate. Passed with a 99% rate. So we're not just holding the line anymore, we're moving forward. With your continued solidarity and support, we can achieve a win, not just for the Birmingham bin workers, but for our movement as a whole. It's clear to us that the Labour Party has lost its way, and with the rise of reform, many working people are turning away from the party that no longer protects and supports them, into the waiting arms of those who would divide us and lie to us and paint a picture of Britain of nationalist, patriotic country. But we know the undercurrent that comes from this rhetoric. Anything foreign, anything different is not welcome, and anyone who speaks out will be vilified and silenced. Change is needed. The future is not written yet. We still have time to make positive moves to stem the tide and show people there is another choice, a better, more inclusive party based in fairness, equality and workers' rights. With the trade unions at its core, that's a party I would vote for. That's a party that many in this country, working people, would vote for. And together reshape the country to the place of fairness and equality. Respect and equality, not a place of fear and division. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Matt. Our third speaker is Bali Akhtar. Bali is an activist in the work of solidarity with Palestine. She's organised She's organised 32 coaches to demonstrations in London over recent times. But I know, as well as the Palestine thing, Bali is someone who would go anywhere and do anything to support oppressed people anywhere in the world. And that is what socialism is all about. Every single human being is of worth, of equal worth, and that's what socialists stand for. So, without further ado, Bali.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good evening and assalamu alaikum. Thank you for taking the time and being with us today. It's been 2 years since I stood here talking to you about Palestine, but I never knew, I never imagined that after 2 years I would still be talking about Palestine and the genocide that's continuing in front of our eyes. It's not 2 years. It's 76 years of suffering. But these last 2 years the world watched horrific scenes on a mass scale never seen or witnessed before. 2 years of what we watched the ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people. Innocent human lives tortured, murdered, shot, and totally, brutally imprisoned. The destruction of buildings turned into rubble, taking with them bodies of innocent lives, bringing families upon families buried under the rubble that was created by the weapons from the West, supported by our government as well. The Palestinians searched for their loved ones in the rubble. Shaken and broken, we witnessed the heartaches of the mothers picking up their martyred bodies, burnt children wrapped in shrouds, and hugging them tightly to their hearts. Allah is sufficient for us, their lips moving. Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakeel, they uttered, trembling fear of what they had witnessed. We watched bombs fall onto the camps, and the innocent burnt alive, screaming, crying for help. But how? Their loved ones watched, the injured, but they couldn't save them. Doctors, our heroes, tirelessly night and day while they bombed their hospitals and took them. The great Lion of Gaza, Dr. Hossam Abu Safiya, Gaza's top pediatrician, taken, arrested, tortured just for helping humanity. We saw the ambulances rushing to the scenes, risking their lives to save lives. And they did just that. But when little Hind, who was traveling with her family, was struck by a blast, the car that she traveled was struck by a bomb blast that killed all her family. And she sat in that car asking for help. She rang the people to help her, and they told her the ambulance was on their way, but it never came because they bombed the ambulance while it was coming to the rescue. And then she said, "The tank is drawing near, help me." But no one could help her. 355 bullets were punctured into the little body of Hind. That's how they helped her. This is humanity that we face today. Is this humanity? Do we ever question ourselves? Is this the pain? Is this the suffering that we as humans have sat and watched and done nothing about? Our governments have funded the genocide, funded the weapons that killed those innocent lives. 2 years. 2 years we watched the brave journalists being targeted one by one, mass destruction, and they ended their lives. Anas, oh Anas, you reported. Oh Salah, you told us the truth that the Zionists did not want us to see. And they gave up their lives, telling us the truth, showing us the truth. And don't think that the truth ends with them. Their children will carry on, continue the truth that they tried to silence. It will never be silenced. We witnessed the famine, the deliberate starvation, deliberately, intentionally, ethically to cleanse them. Gaza has been cut from the outside world. The world leaders have ignored their plea, but the people whose hearts flowed with love, stood firm in their favor. The people of Gaza's message was clear, and we give them that message. We are with you. We will always be with you. We will stand with you, and we will be there for you. I've been taking coaches from Coventry since October 23. First we did fortnightly, and then it went on to monthly. The last was my 32nd trip to London. And you know what? I was one of those people who couldn't stand and speak, but Gaza gave me the power to speak and to tell the truth. Gaza has awakened the world. They never gave up. We have witnessed their patience, their resilience, and their strength. They never gave up. They never will, and they never have. They are the chosen people, chosen by Allah for a purpose. Not one of us could even last a day of what they went through. But Allah has chosen them, and they have been chosen to continue the work that they are doing, and they will continue, and they won't give up. And I say to the people of Gaza, Ya Palestine, we hear you, we see you, we salute you. We salute your resilience, your strength, and we want to remind you, you're not alone. We see you and we hear you. They talk about ceasefire, a peace plan made by Trump and the Arab leaders, the leaders that watched while it was happening, the leaders that closed their borders. Those leaders are now making peace plans. And then it's edited by Tony Blair. We don't want to see these plans. We want to see an end to the genocide. We want to see an end to occupation. We want to see the Palestinians decide what they want. They say it's a peace plan, and then they say, if Israel decides there's no resumption of terror. We don't want the ifs. We don't want the buts. We want a free Palestine, a Palestine to be, the Palestinians to be given their rights. No deals. No deals. Thank you. We will carry on. We must carry on until apartheid has been broken, occupation has been dismantled, barriers have been lifted, homes and lands have been returned to their righteous owners. The flame of freedom that was lit by the blood of the martyrs, we will keep it raised high, and we will not be silenced. Now is the time to do more, to be stronger, and for the sake of Palestine. Enough ceasefires. Give them their rights. Free, free Palestine. And lastly, I would like to thank the trade unions and the Tom Mann branch, whom we could not have subsided our coaches without their support. And today, I would like you all to support the MAP, the young doctors who have given up their time, their families, their country to go and support those people. Please support MAP charity today. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bali. And I should just mention, we will be having a bucket collection as you leave at the end, and we're going to split that in two ways equally. The money that people have paid for tickets or when you came in, that covers the cost of tonight's meeting comfortably, and the surplus of that will be going to help set up when we can officially set up a branch of the new party locally. So that money will be used for that. But we're also going to have a bucket collection at the end, if you've got your change, or we have got card readers, and we're going to split that 50-50 between Medical Action for Palestine, that Bali's just mentioned, and the Birmingham Bin Strikers Fund. So, now we're going to introduce our penultimate speaker. Dave Nellist was a Labour MP from 1983 to 1992. He was kicked out for being too left-wing, to cut a long story short. Some things don't change. Since then, Dave stood as a socialist independent right back then in 1992, and he flipping nearly won. That was an incredible achievement back at that time, when Labour wasn't half as discredited as it is now. Since then, Dave was for 14 years a socialist, an elected socialist councillor for St Michael's Ward of this city, and he's also he's the chair of the Trade Union and Socialist Coalition, which pioneered the standing of candidates on a big scale from a position to the left of Labour. Dave's also finally been very involved in trying to get trade unions and trade union activists to push their unions to disaffiliate from Labour and move towards the new party. Notably, having a meeting of an online meeting of some 1,300 trade unionists, which both Jeremy Corbyn and Zarah spoke at. That was in July. So Dave's played a massive role in all these things. And welcome to Dave, the one, the only, the legendary Dave Nellist.
Well, I thank John for that introduction, which is certainly going to cost me a pint when this meeting's over. I came to Coventry in 1971. This city was then the richest working class city in the country. It was largely based on the strength of the trade unions. In the 1970s, 67% of all workers in Coventry were members of a trade union, twice the national average. They were militant, they were well organised. The 1970s was also the time that this country was at its most equal. 2/3 of all the wealth this country made at that time, the GDP, went to the wages of working class people. Today it's barely half. It's a loss now of some £300 billion a year, which goes to wealth rather than wages. Now that wasn't an accident. It's been a deliberate 50 years of attacks to reverse the gains that the working class made in the post-war period. Started with Margaret Thatcher, exporting the factories to countries where unions were weaker or wages were lower, turning the economy more to services and the profits of finance, widespread privatisation of key industries, cuts in public spending, particularly in housing, attacks on the unions through ever-tightening legislation. And none of that neoliberalism was challenged by the Prime Ministers who followed her. And then with the financial crash of 2008, triggered by the gambling and the speculation of that finance sector, the government borrowed and printed £400 billion to save the banks and their shareholders. It then opposed austerity to force ordinary working people to pay that money back. As a consequence, we have now had the worst decade for wages in this country since the Napoleonic Wars. And as Grace has already said, the Rowntree Foundation now are estimating in the millions the families who cannot buy essentials. 4.5 million, I think, as Grace said, who've borrowed money to pay bills or to pay for essential food. The TUC has estimated that without the austerity of the last 15 years holding wages back, if wages had continued as they were, growing in 2008, every worker in Britain today would be £10,000 a year better off. Instead, after 15 years of austerity, wages are 25% less than they would have been. But over that same 15 years, the 350 richest families in Britain, as tracked every year by the Sunday Times, are 140% more wealthy than they were at the beginning of our austerity. So is it any wonder, after 15 years of austerity, millions of working people have lost faith in establishment politicians and establishment parties? And without a working class challenge from the left, Farage is becoming the main electoral beneficiary. According to Ipsos, the polling organisation, Labour now is down to 22% support. The Tories are down to 14%. That's 36% for the two main establishment parties in Britain. Reform UK is on 34%, 2 points behind the combined support of Labour and the Tories. But there's also a huge enthusiasm for something different. A party that is anti-austerity and anti-war, that can really represent working people. Not just a party for them, but a party of them. One that's accountable. And I would argue, one whose representatives should live the same lives and on the same wages as the people they represent. In the words of John Maclean, and that's the revolutionary Scottish teacher during the First World War, not Bruce Willis in Die Hard, in the words of John Maclean, representatives who rise with their class, not out of it. Now, the 800,000 people who in July and August signed up to join what now we call Your Party, that number has its origins in that widening economic equality, that austerity. It is, as Jeremy once said, politics catching up with economics. And in the last 3 months, there have been hundreds of meetings like this, even bigger rallies in Liverpool and Manchester that Zarah spoke at. But there's no guarantee that the anger of working people towards establishment parties and establishment politicians and their policies will automatically flow in a progressive direction. It's true. The first opinion polls in July, when Zarah and Jeremy launched Your Party, even before it had a name, or politics, or structures, or campaigns, 10 to 18% of people said they'd vote for it. Particularly important amongst young voters, 18 to 24, it led all other parties at 34%. And more recently, according to the Times, amongst 16 and 17-year-olds, before a new party is promised to abolish tuition fees and restore grants for every student, before it promised to build homes for that half of all 18-year-olds who don't go to university but want independence and a life of their own, before a new party has promised to raise wages and to fully end zero-hour contracts, insecure and dead-end jobs, before the new party has identified a single policy to inspire the next generation of voters, 16 and 17-year-olds who were 10 and 11 when Jeremy was leader of the Labour Party, see this new party at least as an equal to the parties whose names they already know. But there's still that elephant. There's still that elephant in the room. The 10 to 18% support I mentioned earlier would come from existing voters voting for Labour, voting for Lib Dem, voting for the Greens, all of which would lose votes to a new Your Party. But the same polls show Reform UK largely untouched. Now, we know that the reform bubble can be burst. In 2015, when Farage led UKIP, he got 4 million votes in the general election of that year. 2 years later, in the general election of 2017, when Jeremy was leader and Labour was seen to have radical socialist policies that would materially change the lives of ordinary working people, new investment and an end to privatisation of health, new investment in education and in council house building, scrapping tuition fees and student debt, raising the minimum wage, welfare and pension benefits, restoring public ownership to water, gas, electricity, rail and Royal Mail, all the things that we could adopt as a starting point for the programme of the new Your Party. In 2017, Farage's vote fell to 600,000. 1 million people who voted Farage in 2015 voted Labour in 2017, when they saw a serious party challenging the inequality of this country. And we can do that again, but time isn't on our side. Next May's elections are a crucial stage in the fight to win mass support for a socialist alternative. 6 months ago, there were 2,000 council seats in England up for election, and Reform won 700. Next year, there's nearly twice as many seats, as well as elections for the Welsh Senate and the Scottish Parliament. Unchallenged, Reform could have 2,000 councillors in 6 months' time. In many places, London and Birmingham being the biggest examples, all councillors are up. For the next 4 years, there are no more elections, so what Reform gains next May, it holds to beyond the next general election, giving Farage's right-wing views, poisoning politics, a much wider platform than even he has at the moment. And in Coventry, all 54 seats are up next May. In Warwickshire, possibly Nuneaton and Berwick and Rugby. I say possibly because there's 66 councils in England who are part of a reorganisation strategy, and we still don't know which one of them are definitely going to have elections next May. But in Coventry, we must defend Grace's seat in Westwood and return her to the council. But we also need 53 other candidates to stand alongside her. Trade unionists, anti-cuts campaigners, anti-war campaigners, environmental campaigners, socialists, to fight against the annual cuts in our local services and for a plan to rebuild and restore the services that people need. So we need to come together and discuss a people's budget out of which we can get a manifesto over the next few weeks. That's a priority in Coventry and Warwickshire. But we need to link up with other Your Party branches and councillors and have a national struggle against this government to restore the money that's been stolen from our towns and cities. That will mark out a difference between us and all other parties, from the Tories and Reform who relish more cuts to local jobs and services, to others, even the Greens, who say with regret that they've got no choice but to make cuts. And for Labour, well, the best they can say, it's better their cuts than anybody else's, a policy of managed decline. Mary Cray, the MP for Coventry East, was on social media 2 weeks ago congratulating herself and the National Labour government for an additional £2 million a year in funding for the Willenhall area, but saying nothing about well over £100 million a year that the whole of Coventry has lost during the 15 years of austerity. I believe it's urgent that in order to head off the risk of Reform winning control of councils, we must have that campaign for the May elections, and then this party can be the one with fighting councils, even running councils up and down the country. Now, I said at the beginning, this was once the richest working class city in the country, but what do we have now? We have people sleeping in shop doorways and begging for money outside all our supermarkets. We've got parks and streets that are no longer regularly maintained. We've got hardly any youth clubs or youth workers. In fact, 60% of all council-run youth clubs have closed in the last decade. We've got 14 food banks in Coventry, but not enough social workers to help families long-term, or the jobs and decent wages that can help people climb out of poverty. There's hardly any half-term or summer holiday activities for children at school. We've got increased charges on 16 to 18-year-olds with disabilities just to get on a bus to go to school. We've got a 50% increase in the charges for new residents living with dementia in council PFI homes. And we've got probably the most expensive PFI hospital in the whole of the country. Walsgrave Car Park makes £8 million a year profit from the staff and the families of the patients, and not a penny of that goes to the NHS. It all goes to the shareholders of PFI. PFI is a national scandal. We need a party to renationalise the NHS, drive out profit made from illness, extend ownership into pharmaceuticals and medical equipment manufacturers. We need to inspire people with socialist change. Now, what I want to finish on is this. I had hoped by tonight we would have had the founding documents of your party published, and there will be official meetings called in our area, including one here in Coventry, for discussion and amendments in the next few weeks. And in fact, they have actually been published in the last hour, so none of us have had the chance to properly read them. But they're going to go to a conference at the end of November, where 13,000 people chosen at random will debate out the policies, constitution and rules and plans for the next year. I have to say, I'm not a fan of drawing names out of a hat as to who should attend that conference, but given the time I haven't got left, perhaps leave that for discussion later on. But the one point I do want to say, that as John said in my introduction, the Socialist Party and the Trade Unions and Socialist Coalition are campaigning for the new York Party to have is trade unions and trade unionists at its heart. A party that represents the interests of the organised working class. What do we mean by that? Well, all those here in a union know it's not the union card alone in your wallet or purse that equals up the relationship between the employer and the employed. It's that the employer knows that if she or he doesn't deal fairly with workers, workers can act together to change that employer's mind. They can take industrial action, like the bin workers are doing in Birmingham. And politics is the same. It's not the individual, private or moral views that we hold that give us strength. It's the political organisation of our numbers. The working class in this country is 90% of the population. Not all of them are workers in the sense of actually being at work. Some can't work because of age or infirmity, or because the workplace is imperfectly adapted to enable them to do so. Some aren't in work because of caring responsibilities, but they're still part of the 90% majority in this country, that class in the population that doesn't own the means to make a profit, but has to sell its labour power in order to get a wage. 6.5 million of those are in trade unions. That's the largest voluntary organisations in this country. And we need to put them, their resources, their members, their structures and their power at the heart of this party. We need the fullest democracy in this new party, the ability for every voice to be heard. That means in individual local members' branches, every person having a voice and a vote, especially for candidates in local campaigns. Then when we get to a district level, and certainly at a regional and national level, we need a delegate structure to represent those members, but also to allow the affiliation of organisations such as trade unions, existing community groups such as the several that have grown up and been built recently around newly independent councillors, campaigns on housing such as Shack and Acorn, campaigns on the NHS and on the environment, and also a home for all socialists and their groups and their parties who bring experience and ideas in fighting to change society, something I know Zarah wrote about in Tribune last week. So to finish, we live in the 6th richest country on the planet. Let's say every town and city there are people sleeping in shop doorways. House prices are 8 to 10 times the wage of a 20-year-old, pushing home ownership out of reach. Rents are uncapped. Landlords profit. Getting a degree at Coventry or Warwick University costs £90,000 in debt. Libraries are understaffed. NHS is overstretched. Streets are dirty. Parks are unkempt. There's hardly any youth clubs. And not one of those things is the fault of a few thousand desperate people coming here across the channel in rubber. I pinched one of Jeremy's aphorisms earlier. Let me now pinch one of Zarah's. This unequal society, getting worse and worse for the majority of the population, is the fault of a few thousand people, the millionaires and the billionaires, coming and going not by rubber dinghy, but by private jet. So, let's change that narrative. Let's change the narrative that blames the most recent arrival to these shores and instead put the blame on the unfair, unequal, capitalist society that's organised for the benefit of the 1% of liquid millionaires, not the vast majority of the population. 400 years ago, in the English Civil War, the forerunners of the trade unions and of our socialist movement were the levellers and the diggers. They saw society as a pyramid, with the monarchy and the rich landowners at the top, the middle class who look after their interests a bit lower down, and at the base of that pyramid, the vast majority of ordinary people. And their slogan was, turn the world upside down. Put the millions really in charge, not the millionaires. Let's make your party the best possible version it can be, to end austerity, to end war, to build a new society that's fair and equal and has socialism at its heart. The establishment have poor parties. It's time for the working class to have one of their own.
Thank you very much, Dave. And our final speaker, Zarah Sultana, is, as I think you all know, has a double claim to be speaking here to us tonight as our keynote speaker. First of all, she's the MP for Coventry South, which we are now within. Secondly, she's the official co-leader of the new party. Zarah was elected in 2019 as a Labour MP and has been battling with the Labour Party ever since, inside and now outside. Zarah is noted for her skill with social media and her punchy comments. Other people have lots of nuance, and I'm on the one hand, on the other hand, Zarah's just straight in there. And it gets her in hot water sometimes, but we like it. There's nothing more important than some plain speaking in the interests of the great majority. So, without further ado, I introduce Zarah Sultana.
Thank you so much for that introduction, John, and thank you to the organisers, thank you to the volunteers, thank you everyone for being here tonight. There's a lot of things you could be doing, but you've decided to come here to talk about our brand new party. And I want to start off by talking about Coventry, a city that knows what collective struggle looks like, a city with a history of resilience, solidarity and resistance. We know that during the Blitz, Coventry was almost destroyed, yet Coventrians rebuilt not just buildings, but community, hope and courage. From that destruction grew a city committed to peace, reconciliation and collective action. And when you look at Coventry's history, you recognise that it is a city of workers' struggle, where trade unions have flourished, fighting for fair wages, safe working conditions and the rights of the working class. Coventry's factories, its industries and its streets have long been places of organisation and resistance, a living example of what solidarity can achieve. And of course, this is a city shaped by migration. Waves of workers from the Caribbean, Ireland, South Asia and beyond have come here and made Coventry their home, built our industries, our homes and our communities. The Indian Workers Association was founded right here, bringing communities together to fight exploitation, racism and discrimination. This is a city that proves migration is a strength. Its multi-ethnic communities, its shared spaces, its schools, its markets, they all stand as a testament of the power of people from all backgrounds coming together. And of course, there's a history of anti-racist struggle. Activists from here have long stood up against fascists, from the National Front in the 1970s and 80s to the racist mobilizations we see today. They understood then, as we understand now, that justice is only won when people organize, when communities unite, and when courage meets action. Today, we have to channel that legacy because our fight is the same fight. The fight against fascism, the fight against austerity, the fight against inequality. And of course, the fight for a socialist future that belongs to all of us. The truth, we all know it. Millions of people in our country are fed up, and so they should be. In fact, they should be furious. Furious that life is getting harder while wages stagnate. Furious at private water companies, profiteering energy firms, and landlords squeezing us dry. Furious at waiting weeks to see a GP. Furious at being made to pay for crises that we did not cause. And furious that they've been told there is no alternative to a system that is clearly broken. Millions of people are crying out for real change. And when Jeremy was elected as Labour leader, it gave so many of us hope that politics could be about honesty, decency, peace, solidarity, and working class power. But we know what happened. The establishment attacked him and what he stood for and tried to drive the left out of public life. Yet, here we are fighting back. If you knock on doors and you talk to people in the street, people have lost faith in our democracy. They see politicians as self-serving, more interested in freebies to Sabrina Carpenter gigs or designer clothes than the struggles of our working class communities. They care more about ministerial cars and Zone 2 dinner parties than actually making people's lives materially better. Trust in the political class is broken, and in that vacuum, we have seen the rise of the far right. We know that reform is not the answer, it's just another wing of the establishment. Funded by billionaires and aristocrats, fronted by a millionaire stockbroker, it is peddling racism to distract us from its real agenda. More privatization, more deregulation, more handouts for the super rich, more cuts for the rest of us. Yet, this rise that we see of the far right didn't happen overnight. Years of politics as usual, neoliberalism wearing different coloured rosettes laid the groundwork. We're told there's no money for housing, there's no money for healthcare, there's no money for free school meals. Yet, like Grace mentioned, there's somehow always money for war, there's always money for corporate bailouts, and there's always money for tax breaks for the super wealthy. And so we find ourselves asking the question, why is there always money for war and never for the poor? Instead, migrants are scapegoated, minorities are blamed, and politicians say, blame other working class people because otherwise you might blame us and our rich mates. And the results? The largest fascist mobilization we have seen in this country for decades. Racist attacks in our towns and cities, women and children attacked for the colour of their skin. And I spoke at that anti-Tommy Robinson demonstration because we all have a duty to fight back. We cannot beat fascism by ignoring it or by echoing its lines. We stop it by organising, by building a broad movement that is rooted in solidarity and uniting working class people around a positive vision. And history shows us when we organise, we win. In the 1970s and 80s, we saw the Anti-Nazi League drive away the National Front from our streets. That courage and unity is what we need again, an anti-fascist league for the 21st century, and that has to be a wake-up call for the left. We need our trade unions to stand up because it is not enough to just have logos on leaflets. We want coaches. We want people on the streets. Every time the fascists show up, we outnumber them. And we can see across Europe, the far right thrive on fear, division, and scapegoating. They want to turn neighbour against neighbour. But we cut through the noise by talking about people's real lives, substandard housing, insecure work, wages that don't cover the bills, and an NHS on its knees. People in this country don't need culture wars, they need hope, and they need material improvements to their lives. And to be clear, we defeat the far right at the ballot box, but where necessary, we fight the fascists at the streets. So what is it that we're fighting for? Well, we're not fighting for tweaks to a broken system, not token reforms like a wealth tax here and lowering the bills there that keep wealth and power hierarchies largely intact. We are fighting for a fundamental transformation of our society, workers controlling the means of production, communities controlling the wealth that they produce. That is socialism. And here's another thing, working class people aren't turned off by class politics. They are living class war every single day. It's class war when bills rise but energy companies record profits. It's class war when landlords evict tenants while in arrears while bankers are bailed out. It's class war when there are more food banks in our country than McDonald's restaurants, and it's class war when 50 families hoard more wealth than half the entire country. It's class war, it's time we embraced it, and it's time we won. And the Labour Party, which me, Dave and Grace all have a history with, has become truly unrecognisable. It is now a party of corporate lobbyists and billionaire donors, a party so anti-socialist it has crossed into McCarthyite territory. Now, the Labour Party won a majority on an unprecedentedly low voter share. And what have they done with that power? They've refused to scrap the two-child benefit cap, keeping hundreds of thousands of children in poverty that could be scrapped overnight. They've cut winter fuel payments for pensioners, they've cut disability benefits, they've cut a workers' right package, attacked our civil liberties, and labelled people of conscience protesting genocide as terrorists. They're heroes, the real terrorists. They are heroes, and the real terrorists are the Israeli government and our government and anyone else who has enabled genocide. And I have voted against every single one of these cool measures, and I would do it all over again. This Labour government has turned cruelty against migrants into performance, filming deportation videos as propaganda, suspending family reunifications, and making endless concessions to hate. And let's not forget when Keir Starmer used the same fascist language as Enoch Powell, calling us an island of strangers. And saying that migration has done incalculable damage. Shame on him. We are not an island of strangers. We are an island that is suffering, and we see the political class and the super rich laughing at us. Well, we're done begging for crumbs. We're taking the fucking lot. And that's why we're all here today, because we're building a party of the left, your party. Billionaires already have 3 parties. It's about time the rest of us had one. And we're going to do things differently. The challenges facing our class can't be met by a Labour 2.0 that mimics its party structures and limits itself to reform within capitalism. At best, you might win temporary gains, but you cannot fix the crises of inequality, exploitation, and ecological destruction that define capitalism. So nationalising a few industries isn't enough. we need full democratic control of the economy by workers, because the problem isn't just a few bad bosses or greedy companies. It is a system that is built for private profit, not social need. And so, as long as this system stays in place, it will reproduce the same inequality and exploitation. It is only socialism that can lay the foundation of universal equality, dignity, and freedom. That's what I want your party to be fighting for. A party rooted in our working class communities, proudly socialist, fiercely democratic. A party that recognises that power comes from below, in our trade unions, in our tenants' unions, the climate movement, and the fight for Palestinian liberation. And let me say clearly, your party will be the only party that is anti-Zionist, and that is incredibly important. We do not give cover for racist, supremacist ideology in the UK and abroad, and we know that a two-state solution is a fallacy, so we stand for a free Palestine, a single secular state with equal rights for all. And while there has been a ceasefire, the bombs continue to rain on Gaza, because we know peace means more than a ceasefire. It means freedom from military occupation and apartheid. It means Palestinians deciding their own future, not war criminals like Tony Blair who belong in The Hague. So we continue marching, we continue boycotting, divesting, and speaking out until Palestine is free, and those who enabled this genocide are held accountable for their crimes. And it is deeply shameful that we have a Labour government that is expectedly going to succumb and allow Maccabi Tel Aviv to attend the match in Villa Park. We will march to show that racist football hooligans are not welcome, not in Birmingham, not in the West Midlands, not in this country, and we stand against a genocidal apartheid state of Israel. And I also see it as a duty for us to make sure a day of reckoning comes for those who have enabled genocide. Blood is on their hands. We will not rest until Keir Starmer, David Lammy, and all the others responsible are in the dock at The Hague. Because we cannot forget what we have witnessed over the past 2 years. And yes, unlike the Green Party, our position is to sever all diplomatic relations with the apartheid genocidal state of Israel, because you cannot have business as normal with an apartheid state. That means expelling the ambassador. That means shutting down the embassy and treating Israel the same way apartheid South Africa was treated, a pariah state. And at the heart of this is a politics of anti-imperialism, and so we will withdraw from NATO. NATO does not promote peace and security. NATO is an imperialist war machine that profits from death and destruction, and unlike the Green Party, we do not think you can greenwash NATO. Just look at Afghanistan, just look at Iraq, just look at Libya, endless NATO wars that have made the world less safe, and every penny that is spent on bombs, tanks, and missiles is money that is divested from our houses, our healthcare, and our future. And that is why we must argue for the immediate withdrawal from NATO and demanding that we have wages, not weapons, welfare, not warfare. And also, we stand unconditionally with the oppressed. That means saying clearly and loudly, trans rights are human rights. A politics that doesn't centre the most marginalised isn't worthy of the name socialism, and the rise in transphobia that we see is deliberate. It is being stoked as a part of a wider culture war to divide us. And just like with Muslims, just like with migrants and disabled people, the goal is always the same. Find a scapegoat to distract people from who really holds the power. And our movement has to say, we are not playing that game, not now, not ever. So yes, we stand with trans people, we stand with Muslims, we stand with migrants, we stand with disabled people and the most marginalised, because our power lies in unity. We are the majority, and when we move as one, we are unstoppable. And so our policies have to be radical, but our whole approach to politics must be different. Our party must be owned and led by its members, everyone in this room, I hope. Our party's decisions must be made democratically, not stitched up in backroom deals. And our MPs and councillors must be accountable to the grassroots. That means mandatory reselection. And when we speak in Parliament or in our council chambers, it must be as voices of the movement. And I will always fight for maximum member democracy, because it's your party. It literally belongs to you. Together, we can build a movement strong enough to challenge state power, a movement that can dismantle the rotten establishment, confront capitalism and imperialism head-on, and rebuild society from the ground up. Because we know that real change never comes from above, whether it's the NHS, the right for women to be able to vote, our workplace rights, they have always been won from struggle from below. And there is so much reason for hope. I feel it here today, and I've felt it in all the events that I've been to, from Sheffield to Newcastle to Devon and London and so much more. A few months ago, over 800,000 people expressed an interest in supporting your party. And those 800,000 people haven't disappeared, they haven't gone away. Many are watching cautiously and are ready to make the jump. What is more, public opinion is already with us, against war, against genocide, for renationalisation, for workers' rights and for properly funded services. What we need is a united movement to bring those struggles together, because united we are strong, united we will win. But unity doesn't happen by accident. It must be built with patience, with courage and with vision. It requires us to believe a very simple fact, that working class people can run society better than the billionaires, the profiteers, and the war criminals who rule over us today. The crises we face feel immense, but so is our potential power. If we organise, if we build, if we fight, we can beat the far right and create a society based on justice, equality, and peace. That is the task before us, and that is the potential of what we are building with your party. So, it's great to see so many people here and many people watching at home. But this can't be your only contribution. I ask you all to join your party if you haven't already. Get active, join a union, join a tenants union. Acorn and Coventry are amazing. Organise in our local communities and build the power that we need to fight back. Because when they come for us, as they've shown before, they're going to throw everything in the kitchen sink, and we need to fight back. If you want change and if you want socialism, you have to fight for it. It will not be handed to us. And I've never been more certain of anything than if we fight, we will win. And the choice is clear. You can see it on our streets, on our social media algorithms. The choice is between socialism and barbarism, and we must choose socialism. And just finally, before we open up for Q&A, I will leave you with one of my favourite quotes from Arundhati Roy, who says, "Another world is not only possible, she is on her way. On a quiet day, I can hear her breathing." Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Zarah. 5 fantastic speakers, but now we're due for some more great speakers, which is you, the audience. What we're going to do is split this into 2 bits. We're going to take questions first, and I mean questions, not a statement and a question tacked on the end. And we're going to try and answer them one by one as they're asked. So we're kind of going into sort of panel mode there. When we've done that, we're a little bit short on time now, but when we've done some of that, then we'll go over to people's contributions, people's points that you want to make. Now, we have got a slight issue with microphones. Somebody who's going to put their hand up in a minute has got a roving mic at the back of the room. I flipping hope. Here we are at the side. Thank you, Nick. So if you want to say something, Nick will come to you. Now, the problem is we were promised 3 microphones today, but one of them isn't really working. So we're going to have a roving mic in the balcony up there. Incidentally, for any one of you down here who can't see, there's about another 100 people up there. And so, oh, you're just putting your hand up ready. Okay. So we've got a slight issue there because we haven't got a microphone up there. Now, there's 2 ways we can do it. If you've got a loud voice, just get up and shout, we'll hear you. Or if you want to ask something or make a point shortly, then come downstairs to this main area, please. I'm afraid we're going to have to ask you to do that. Okay, so can we see, put your hands up now then, if you've got a question to ask. I'm seeing 5 or so, and 1 up there. Come down from upstairs. I'm going, or are you a loud voice? Yeah, go on. Go for it. Go for it. Hey?
On the live stream, you don't have to repeat what she says.
Do you want me to ask my question?
Yes, ask a question.
Okay, so thank you to all panelists for your inspiring speeches. My question is about, can you explain why the structures of your party are being set up in the way that they are? In particular, why is there this random selection process for the conference where the final decisions will be made about the structure and policies of the party? So could you explain why that decision was made?
Would you be able to answer
yes.
that? Yeah.
Thanks, Nicola. That question is important. So while I have co-founded the party with Jeremy, I haven't co-led the process around conference. And there are things that I am very critical of. Sortition is one, but also decisions that have been made around people not being able to have membership of any other party. I think that the role that we are meant to play right now is unifying the left and bringing the whole left with us. There's also other aspects of membership where it's for people over the age of 16, not 14, and if you're abroad, you can't join. I've also seen today that members can only be people who have the right to vote and live in the UK. That is not solidarity. We should be able to have anyone who lives here. And so there are various aspects of democracy that I'm quite concerned about. And obviously my position as someone who has been involved in setting up the party but not conference is a bit of an interesting one because I can just vocalize my concerns. And what I would say is that there is a lot of power everyone else holds if we all speak out about the issues around democracy, as I have done, because ensuring member democracy is very important, I think we can still make some wins. I don't think we can reverse, for example, sortition, but I think around membership and making sure conference is truly democratic, I still think there's space for that. I'm also concerned, like Dave mentioned, that the documents were just uploaded and we haven't had time, and there are assemblies taking place on the weekend. And I think the fact that there's such a short timetable before conference means that a lot of things are happening quite quickly, and so they are not being done properly. I will obviously share those concerns and try to push the people that are actually making a lot of these decisions in a more democratic position.
Okay, can we have another question, please? Hands. Sorry?
Zarah said we need to all speak out. If we're worried about sortition, if we're worried about anything, we're worried about the way that things being set up, we can speak out. But I don't know how to speak out.
Okay. All right. Yeah, thank you. We're going to say the way to make your voice will be, there will be a regional conference, and one of those regional conferences is going to take place in Coventry. And I hope to see all your faces again at that meeting as members, and speaking out there as we will, because I think many of us are very concerned about some of the strange ideas that have come down about the form of democracy. Time for another issue now. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Marco. I am from Slovenia and I'm also a trade unionist in the NHS. One of the questions that I think we're not addressing yet, because that is also obviously down the list usually because we're all setting up our own trade unions, our parties, etc. I'm a member of Mi Socialisti in Slovenia. We see the fascists organize across borders, and I was just wondering what people's views are in terms of your party building political alliances across borders. So Zarah has already kindly offered to give some support and endorsement because we're founding our own party in Slovenia to do a similar thing, because the centre-left government, as they call themselves, are increasing military spending to 5%, which is 20% of Slovenia's budget. So obviously we're busy setting our own party in Slovenia. Obviously we're setting up a party here. Coincidentally, they're both happening in November. So I wonder what people's views are in terms of building an international alliance, an international front of anti-capitalists to win socialism globally. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. So a few weeks ago, I was invited to France as part of an anti-war international conference looking at the NATO demands on countries, including the UK, Slovenia, France, Germany, to increase defence spending at the cost of NHS funding, housing and so forth. And what we are doing together is organising across borders, recognising that the challenges are exactly the same, and there will be a follow-up conference in London next year. At that conference there were people from America, Belgium, Italy, there were dock workers, inspiring the rest of us, where Italy has seen 2 general strikes where dock workers have brought the country to a standstill in solidarity with the Palestinian people refusing to dock, refusing to load weapons. And what we found there was an understanding that we all have to organise. That includes right now a steering committee being sent, international days of action, getting more and more MPs of our political traditions involved in this campaigning. So there is work being done in a similar vein. So that's on military spending and rearmament across Europe. We also recognise the threat of fascism is affecting us all. We have lessons to learn from France, we have lessons to learn from Germany, and so that work is also being done. And I see internationalism as a key part of the work that we are doing. Solidarity knows no borders, and our organising must also know no borders.
Thank you very much. Do we have some more hands? Let's see. We're still on the questions here, remember.
Hi, I'm Peter. I've got two questions really. One is a lot of us have shelled out money to join your party, and we haven't heard anything back. We have got no membership numbers or cards or anything. And don't you think we should be getting busy organising locally? Thank you.
Yes. Dave, do you want to come in?
You do this one.
Okay, and just before I do, the documents that both I and Zarah have mentioned that have been published in the last 2 hours are on Your Party, with no spaces or anything, .uk. They went up about 7 o'clock. They're worth reading, because if they go through the conference and the subsequent ballots unamended, this will be the last meeting I speak at as a potential member of your party, because they include in those documents that we can't do what Zarah just said we want to do, is to bring the left together under a single umbrella. So I do urge you to read them and start playing the part. Locally, from my point of view, the biggest and quickest thing we can do is to build for the local elections in May. And as a preface of that, in a couple of weeks' time, we'd like to bring together as many people who'd like to volunteer as possible in what, for sake of another description, we will call a People's Budget Conference or meeting, where we can start to get what are the priorities that you think we should be campaigning for in the elections. And I listed some of them in my speech about the libraries, about the youth centres, about the streets and the parks and the jobs that we used to have, the services we had for kids during the holidays and those sort of things. Bringing those together, but we also start to need to get the volunteers together who are going to organise and be the candidates next May in the elections. We've got one, but we need another 53 because there's 54 seats up in Coventry and possibly more in the other places that I mentioned. So that would be my personal priority. Whilst we're doing the rest of it, discussing shape and structure and constitution, rules, founding principles, plans for the next year and so on, the practical thing on the ground round here is, can we start making sure that Reform don't run this council next May? Can we work with people in Birmingham to make sure Reform don't run Birmingham? Because unchallenged, they could be running some big councils in 6 months' time. So that would be my priority.
Thanks very much, Dave.
Hi, Teresa Bedis. I've been around a long time in this area. What a pretty contentious question here. Perhaps Zarah can answer it. Don't want to put you on the spot, Zarah. But who are the people who are making the decisions that are concerning us? And will the positions that those people currently hold be up for election once our party is formed?
Thanks, Teresa. I want to answer the first question. Membership data is incredibly important. The migration is happening as we speak, and there has to be financial and membership transparency. That isn't something we should fight for. That should be something that is automatic. I also believe that 50% of members' subs should go to branches. We are not here to create Labour Party CLP branches, which are just there to put some leaflets through doors. We want empowered branches that run campaigns, that organise locally, and that has to be a key demand that I am calling for. On the point that Dave also made around people not being able to join the party if they've got a membership of another organisation. Like I said, we are here to unite the left. We want all socialists to be involved, and I am publicly asking for that to be changed. We want everyone to be able to join and attend conference. We cannot have a witch hunt on the eve of conference. That is not what we are building here. And to Teresa's question, while I can't obviously name people, what I would say is we need to make sure that democracy is at the heart of this, so everyone that has a position has to be elected democratically through one member, one vote, so they are held accountable. Obviously, there are people who are working towards conference, and they should not be in place after conference, because conference is sovereign, and conference will decide the structures and the appointments that take place through OMOV. That has to be a key democratic demand as well.
Okay, thank you. Take one more.
Hi, my name is Ashley. I use they, them pronouns. So, Sarah, I would like to ask you, whenever I try to invite more people to join your party, especially trans people, they are really nervous and concerned about certain MPs who are quite transphobic. So my main question is, how do you plan, how can we fight those members? How can we fight against that rising transphobia that shouldn't be accepted within your party or within any socialist space?
Thank you. Thank you for that question. We all have socialist values and principles, and we have to make sure that everyone who stands under your party supports those principles and those values, and the power that you have as members is through open selection and mandatory reselection. If you find that there's a candidate that does not uphold those values, you don't allow them to be your party candidates, and that's democracy. I would say that the party's leadership has to be elected through OMOV. Its executive committee has to be elected through one member, one vote, and then any bureaucrat, like we see in trade unions, they are hired through panels that are also accountable to the membership. So we have to have democracy in all aspects, including selections of councillors and MPs. And if people think that there are candidates that do not uphold our values, the power will lie with you.
Okay, thank you. And we're just going to finish because we want to move on to people's contributions and points. But we've had one question that's come up to us in writing from Al Davison. How would you support the people of Ukraine against the oppression of Russia? And this one is directed to Zarah, who's ready to answer.
Thank you so much. At that conference that I was at in Paris, there were really inspiring speakers from Ukraine and Russia who were both united on the fact that the war has to end, the bloodshed has to end, and there has to be peace. What we see in Russia is an illegal invasion led by an autocrat, a gangster, but Zelensky too is no friend of the workers. What we need to center What we have to center is the people of Russia and Ukraine who are being killed while arms companies are making record profit on their suffering. And there has to be a peaceful, democratic settlement because the bloodshed has to end. And we see that profiteering from the arms industry all across the world, and our government is soaked in blood over it. If we look at what's happening in Sudan, our country sells arms to the UAE, who is funding the RSF, and that entire economic model is profiting from death and destruction. So there has to be a fundamental transformation where our economy is serving the needs of our people, not profiting from war, genocide, and destruction.
Thank you very much. Right, we're going to move on to people's points, contributions to the discussion. So what I'd like to do is if you put your hand up so I can get some idea how many people want to come in. Seeing one over there. I'm seeing about a dozen and 3 upstairs as well. To be honest, we're not going to have time for everybody. I'll try and get a good spread. And I'm going to have to ask you to stick to 2 minutes Okay, we'll hold you to that. At the end of that, we'll ask a couple of our speakers to respond to people's points, and then we'll be aiming to finish sharply on time at 9:30. So, can we see those hands again? And we'll pick somebody, and I'm looking there.
Thank you. No, I'm not going to be the... Yeah, why not? Thank you. I know I'm not the only one. I can see, I've heard the questions. Keen for this movement to start right away. But extreme far-right parties such as Homeland Party and Advance UK have spent 2025 organising on the streets every weekend and online 24/7, financing flags, shouting at hotels and painting roundabouts is only a tiny part of it. They've instructed their membership to infiltrate reform, and as a result, Farage now has the confidence to suggest that the UK should break the promise of indefinite leave to remain that she has made to thousands. They hate immigrants and non-white people as well, but they absolutely, and we've seen this, they absolutely despise trade unionists. We all need to organise against them and stand up to this racism immediately. One way to do this is to sign up at our mailing list here at this table and to get information from the group Stand Up to Racism. Because if we don't, it isn't going to be a new party that we're going to be looking to christen. We'll be looking to find a new name for the 21st century gulag that we find.
Thank you. Can we see all those hands again, please? Right, I'm going to pick somebody upstairs, over there. You have to shout.
Is that better?
Yes.
Yes.
I wanted to know, I feel it's quite important to set our differences in between your party and the Green Party, but I think those differences need to come in the form of how we organise and how we fight, rather than in policy terms. Zarah has raised the points of leaving NATO and severing all ties with Israel, which I do agree with, but those can't be put into action as differences on a manifesto. These have to be long-term goals once the revolution has succeeded, if I can be so bold. And I would make a proposition that we need an electoral pact with the Greens where they can fight for us at the ballots and we can fight for ourselves on the streets. Thank you.
Thank you. Hands again, please. Please, please.
Hello, my name is Shagufta Hamid Khan. Zarah, this question is for you. I heard what you said about Corbyn, and I heard about what you said about the Green Party. But I believe unity is the key to winning elections. How are we going to be united? I'm a bit confused. Jeremy is saying your party. You're saying your party. Whose party? I'm a bit confused. You both separated out, and I don't understand that. Thank you.
Yeah. I think just on the narrow point there is definitely going to be a vote of everybody on what the name of the party is. Okay. Next point.
Hello, my name's Madalena. I've come quite a long way for this meeting. I used to live in Coventry a long time ago. When I saw the new party being publicised, I was extremely excited. And as soon as Zarah opened up the portal, I signed up. I still don't know the status of my signing up. I'm assuming that I'm a party member. I live abroad. I've decided that if this party was something significant, I would probably come back to work in it. My problem My problem is this, that I've come all the way from Greece to be here tonight. Wow. And I'd actually like to endorse or support the point made about the need for transnational outreach in order to be able to have similar types of initiatives organised under an umbrella, obviously perhaps not the same party, but I wanted to say this, and it's in support of the last woman that spoke. You began, Zarah, by saying that you are a co-leader of the party. And I'm assuming that you're speaking for Jeremy as well, and yet I've heard nothing but the points that you have in opposition to a group that I know nothing about. I've come here to participate in our party. And as far as I know, I have a number somewhere because I've signed up for it, and I have the passion and the need and the desire to engage. I have the skills and the capacities to do so too, as everyone does. But I, at this point, feel a little bit fractured in terms of my sense of understanding of where you stand in relation to the party which is not yours and not Jeremy's. And I think at this moment, in some kind of state of coherence coming together, I never worried when there was a problem with the portal because I thought that's what happens with parties. People get into disputes. I'll wait and see. But now I'm a little bit disturbed because I do feel that we need to stand together in building this party and not assume right at the beginning that there are other people out there, because I don't even know who we are yet, let alone the others. So I prefer to start with a very, very resounding moment of solidarity. It's difficult enough for this party without us beginning right from the beginning to be fractured. Thank you.
At the back there, I'm looking at you, Daryl Ho, not Abdul. Sorry, yet, mate. Yes.
Brothers, sisters, I don't want you to underestimate the importance of this meeting. Extremely important, not only in terms of the numbers that are here, but in terms of the spirit, the applause given to the 5 speakers. I'm going to refer to the statement made by Zarah. We have a future. The future is either socialism or barbarism. We have to choose. We have to organise. And the only way we can prevent barbarism taking place in British society on a worldwide scale is in our party having a programme that will meet the needs of working class people, that will build homes, will expand the National Health Service, will expand educational opportunity, create decent jobs at decent wages. We know by experience that capitalism is in a crisis, a real crisis, and it cannot guarantee any of the things that working class people need. That is why this party, from my point of view, has to be a socialist party. It has to have a socialist programme, it must be anti-capitalist, and it must be anti-imperialist. It must be all of those things. How we actually develop that programme will depend upon the meetings we have, the discussions that we have, and how many people are willing to participate and build. In this sense, we've had 2 opportunities to change society. 2015 to 2017, when Corbyn was leader of our party, or the Labour Party, and also in the 1970s and 1980s in the last century. Those opportunities come rarely in our lifetime. So seize the opportunity now, organise, build, develop a programme, convince people it is the only programme for their salvation in this society, fight to get rid of the horrors of capitalism, the horrors of war, and fight for a socialist society.
Thanks, Daryl. Go on then. Yeah, so Jerry Key.
I'm really glad, Zarah, about... I don't need a microphone. I'm really glad that you've made very, very clear that we've got to be anti-racist, because it is something that's been missed a little bit by many other people. But I'm again here from Stand Up to Racism in Coventry. I know that someone else has already spoken. But what I want to say is that we can succeed in pushing back the racists. We were in Nuneaton on the 9th of August when the far right visited Nuneaton in large numbers. It was terrifying, can't lie. I came away from it with my hand shaking. But I would not change having gone. I would not change having opposed those people, because we videoed them, we exposed them, we exposed their sexism, their homophobia, just in the things that they did. We videoed it, we put it up on our Facebook page. The next few demos, they've gone from close to 500 people down to under 30. So they had a demo recently, about 15 people. We can oppose these people with the help of absolutely excellent politicians like Zarah. But we also need to be on the ground. It's never up to one person. Our responsibility for opposing the far right is collective. We all need to be getting involved. I'm asking you to come and see us at Stand Up to Racism Coventry, because we do great things and because we've got to oppose the far right. Whether it's embarrassing them, shaming them, keeping them out of the jobs, whether it's making clear that it's not just about racism. They hate people, LGBTQ people, they hate women, they hate anybody on autistics, they hate if you're neurodivergent, they hate anybody who's different. They're out for all of us. They hate trade unionists. We've seen them, recorded them making hateful statements about trade unions. They hate us all. So that's why we need to be doing something about it. We're over there, come and see us.
Did one of our stewards have their hand up? Am I missing that? No? Okay. Not. All right. Let's see.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks. This was mentioned earlier, but at the group present, there are MPs which would currently represent a majority of the parliamentary grouping for Your Party. Chief amongst them, Adnan Hussain, who's actually the company secretary of the YP organisation. Most of them are landlords, vote against abortion decriminalisation, against taxation of private schools, and he have said the new party should not be anti-wealth, quote unquote. And crucially, Adnan Hussain, especially on Twitter, has been openly transphobic. I know mandatory reselection was mentioned, but that'd be something in the medium term. So at present, we have these people, at the moment at least, damaging the party's image, and at least in my experience, driving many, especially younger progressives, towards the Greens. I know you've been vocal in criticising this, Zarah, but I'm not so sure of the others heading this. What can be done in the here and now to remove them from any positions of power, as they're not progressives, they're not left-wing, and they're not socialists? And on a personal level, I don't feel the Greens are of the correct political tradition to spearhead progressive politics. Thank you.
Jim.
I just want to make a point about how important this all is, because we must not underestimate the critical threat we have if reform, as all the polls show. I've got a councillor who defected from the Tories to reform. You will all share that privilege in one way or another if the polls are reflected, unless we have the opportunity, which we've got to take, to create those alternatives, build them now. I would particularly ask people to think of the idea that was put forward of a no-cuts people's budget as a way of mobilizing rank-and-file, ordinary people, but also the trade unions. That actually is supported by my union, Unite, nationally, as it is by the other two biggest unions, Unison and GMB. That would be a way to involve thousands of unions. Let's face it, we want to get the 4,000 people from the 8,000 who have gone nationally into the party here, but there are 10 times as many trade unionists in Coventry as that. We want to get them all involved in that fight, because it's going to be their jobs, their livelihoods, our services generally, which will really be under threat if we allow reform to take, not just here, but of course Birmingham is challenging. So to ask really that we start on campaigns like that, getting people involved in that mass way, but then take it up, I think, you know, in a very bold fashion, and make sure that all the simple things we talk about. We talked about, somebody mentioned the hospital. Actually, there's one man, a guy called David Mehta, who actually is a multi-billionaire who takes all that money that goes from us if we go to park at that hospital. Well, the campaign should be something like, it's our lives or his yachts. But that should be actually a decision that is a collective one that we see as a real socialist demand. So I would say, please, we have to understand how urgent this is, but also we've got the potential. We've seen it in this room, we've seen it from what's happened nationally and the polls. We've got to take that potential and make it a reality on the streets, in the unions, on workplaces, at homes, but do that, and do that now.
Thank you. One last show of hands.
Okay, thank you. It was really good to hear such great speakers tonight, actually. And as somebody who's canvassed both for Dave and for Zarah over the years, you know, it's great to see two. One MP and one ex-MP, you know, representing the socialist traditions of Coventry. And I think that for me, I mean, I was a member of the Labour Party until Zarah resigned. Zarah was my last reason for remaining in the Labour Party, and I resigned the day after Zarah did, and decided to build this new party. And I think that this is a really important task, because I've been involved, as well as with the Labour Party, with the Coventry and Warwickshire Socialist Alliance, which is one of the main organisers of tonight's meeting. And we've discussed the weakness of the left is the way that it's split into different groups and so on. And, you know, I went in June to the Durham Miners Gala, and you see the banners come past, and one after another they've got unity is strength on them. And that is the message, that is the real message of the Labour movement, is that we have strength in our unity. And this is a chance we have now to unite all of the strands on the left, all of the socialist strands. And I think we cannot let this moment go. And I think that we've got to fight this thing which says that people can't be a member of another party, because really the Labour Party has not been a socialist party, certainly not since Jeremy Corbyn left the leadership. And so people have looked for other alternatives, and this is our chance to unite it. There must be no barriers to people joining it, and I ask everybody here not just to come to this meeting, but to get active and start to build the branch locally in Coventry and Warwickshire. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm ever so sorry, but time is now running out on us. So we've just got time now to ask our speakers, our main speakers, to reply for 2 or 3 minutes each to points in the discussion. We're going to go in the same order that we had the speeches before. So can I ask you first, Grace, if you could answer a couple of those? Not answer, give your thoughts on a couple of those issues.
Yeah, firstly, I just wanted to say thank you to the organisers, the volunteers, the staff, and most importantly you who came along today, whether as far as Greece or 10 minutes down the road. On the question of organising, I think there's 3 main options. You can engage in some of the local campaigns we're doing to get the council to drop Palantir, to help save some of the local libraries, involved in the Birmingham bin strikes and Palestine solidarity, Stand Up to Racism's campaigns. You can also get involved, like Dave said, in our people's budget and electoral politics to be prepped for 2026 elections. And you can also get involved in trying to shape your party to ensure that we have a party of the people, of the working class, that's not a party of landlords and isn't a party of transphobes. There's numerous blocks that are popping up all over social media, and I think comrades might have even left a flyer on your chair, and they all promote democracy within the new party. So if that's something you're interested in, do some research and get involved and use the power of unity and membership to shape how your party is going to turn out. And I think in terms of electoral pacts, they're definitely important and definitely necessary. And I think how we organise and how we fight, the question I would ask is who are the people on the picket lines right now? Who are the people at the anti-racist demos? Who are the people at the Palestine marches? And I hope that, voters, when the time comes, will see for themselves.
Thank you very much. Okay.
A couple of quick points then. Firstly, for the comrade who raised the issue about settling differences with the Greens. Look, I think we should recognise the election of Jack Polanski shows the enormous appetite in this country for radical change. It is a positive development. The 50% rise in the Greens' membership since he was elected, going to over 100,000, again shows tens of thousands of people want to get involved. There are many socialists inside the Greens, but the Greens is not a socialist party in the way we've had all our contributions here tonight. We need to have more discussions, but there needs to be some red lines as well. For me, the question of local services and resisting the cuts of austerity from central government is a red line. And when we had £20 million worth of cuts last year in Coventry, including a £250,000 cut from CRASAC, the Rape and Crisis Sexual Health and Crisis Centre in Coventry, the putting up of the bus fares for 16 to 18-year-old disabled school students so they could get to school, the putting up of the fees of people with newly suffering, or living rather, with dementia in the Anchor PFI Council homes in Coventry, the Greens voted in favour in Coventry. And their answer is because they have to do those things. There is no alternative. Well, we know there is an alternative. And it lies in putting more pressure on central government to refund local services than big business is going to put on Rachel Reeves over the next few weeks to make cuts in public spending. Now, if the Greens want to come with us on that agenda, then I think we should have the ability of the Green Party to affiliate to your party and be part of that big tent. So that's what the sort of conversation I'd like to have with those comrades. Second question, very quickly, and it relates also to the question of environment, but also to the war that was mentioned about Ukraine and Russia. I think the new party should stand for public ownership of the arms industry. I think we should nationalise the arms industry, and then, like any of you with long enough memories know, that 50 years ago in this area, when we had Lucas Aerospace making big redundancies, the shop stewards and the workers of Lucas developed alternative green transition products that were decades ahead of what anybody else did. Long life batteries, portable kidney machines, road rail transport, a whole host of things. We need to use the skills, instead of making more esoteric ways of bombing and killing people, to use for social good within society. And the best way to do that is public ownership. The last thing to finish on is this. We have to be practical. As I say, the documents have come out tonight. Go away and read them, and then we'll need to have more meetings to discuss what's going on. The first assembly takes place in Norwich on Sunday. We need to make the preparations in Coventry and Warwickshire for one here as well. But on your chairs, I'm going to firstly for 3 seconds just advertise mine, which is you should have had that leaflet We're organising bringing Michael Mansfield KC here on the 5th of December. Michael Mansfield has represented almost anybody who's fought against injustice in this country. The Birmingham Six, the Guildford Four, the Hillsborough families, the family of Stephen Lawrence, the Grenfell inquiry, every single one he's been involved in. He's coming here on the 5th of December for a Coventry TUC lecture night on protest and the restrictions which this government are making more difficult for protest. But the other leaflet is this one, Coventry Your Party public meeting. On there's a QR code. If you're interested and want to get involved, particularly in planning for the local elections and the people's budget that Grace just mentioned, sign up on there and volunteer, and let's come back together again in a couple of weeks' time and start, before Christmas gets on us, the work of building practical things on the ground for people to work together. It's been a great evening. Thanks very much for coming.
Thank you. I'm going to cover as many as I can. So firstly, on the Greens, I really like Zach, Rachel, and both in. Me and Zach have spoken on a number of panels together. And obviously, our North Star has to be to stop Nigel Farage getting into power. And if an election was held today, he would be our Prime Minister. We have to stop that. And that will involve cooperating and electoral pacts. But we are not here to divvy up 650 constituencies today. That's the work that has to be done, but the commitment is there. We are going to build what you see in France, which is a popular front against fascism. That's what we have, but we have to recognize our differences, because for me, anti-imperialism is not something I'm going to compromise on. The Palestinian struggle for liberation isn't an extra add-on. It is central to our politics. And when we have a government that is literally funding their genocide and trampling on all of our civil liberties to stop us from organizing around Palestine, it is incumbent on all of us to speak up. Having diplomatic relations with a genocidal apartheid state is not something we can just kind of ignore. We have to sever those ties immediately, and we have to recognize it is not progressive to just ignore that issue. That's the point on the Greens. The second point around democracy, and thank you for travelling all the way from Greece. I think Yanis Varoufakis would be very happy if I told him someone's come all the way from Greece. I co-founded this process with Jeremy, and right from the outset, I have been talking about democracy. Because for me, this isn't a party led by 6 MPs. This is a party that is for the working class, by the working class, and it has to be led by you. That has meant that things have been difficult, but I am not going to compromise, because I haven't left the Labour Party to create another Labour Party where people are unable to organise, disagree, and build power. None of us are interested in creating a Labour 2.0, and so we have to have a space where we can respectfully disagree with each other, understanding that this has never been done before, and so the process has been slightly tricky. But what is our intention? Our intention is to build a socialist party led by members that is going to win electorally, but if you just focus on an electoral vehicle, you are completely irrelevant outside of an election cycle. So building power in our communities has to be in tandem with what we are doing electorally, and I support the calls for a People's Manifesto and everything that Dave and Grace have talked about, but you can't compromise on members' democracy, hence the things that I've been talking about. Once the train has left the station, you cannot come back and say, actually, members don't have OMOV when it comes to selecting the national executive. That national executive has to be one that is on a hiring panel, so there is democratic accountability. Every single other party in our system has a huge democratic deficit. In the Greens, members can vote whatever they like. They can vote to abolish landlords, but MPs can do whatever the hell they like. That is a democratic deficit. MPs have to be held to account. The conference has to be sovereign. These are key principles. And then, you know, even at conference, we cannot have things passed through a claim. There has to be a vote on all of these things. And I think if I was to sum up, we cannot be less democratic than the Labour Party. So everything that comes out, we have to be fighting for maximum member democracy. That is what I will continue to do. And it's not because I want to be difficult. Trust me, my life would be so much easier if I just kept my mouth shut when it comes to talking about democracy. But I have not resigned from the Labour Party, a genocidal austerity party, to create a party that is less democratic. I'd rather not bother. For me, this has to be the example of member democracy fighting for our communities, because that's what we need. And finally, if I can, with the Independent Alliance, what I would say is look at my track record on abortion rights, on standing with the trans community and being uncompromising in my solidarity. We defend women's rights, we defend trans rights, we defend migrants' rights, we fight for the most marginalised, that is socialism. And I have literally an EDM with Acorn on MPs not being allowed to be landlords. And you should ask Acorn if, they trust me when it comes to solidarity with tenants. Ultimately, this is not an MP's party, this is your party. You are the members, you have to fight for this, you have to shape it. There is a lot of effort being put in to discredit us, laugh at us, ridicule us, because people realise the potential of this. 800,000 people recognise the potential of this within a couple of days. And obviously, trust has to be rebuilt, the work has to be done, but the potential is immense to change this country forever. And our European comrades, even our American comrades when I went to New York, are literally looking at us and they are inspired because we are doing what many generations have wanted to establish, a left-wing socialist party. Do not be, fall into despair. The potential is huge. Everything worth fighting for, we've done that as a class and we just have to carry on. So we need hope.
Thank you very much. Right. We've run 5 minutes over time. I've just got some things to ask you and then we're done. First thing I want to ask you is, if you haven't already, join the new party. You'll find it online, Your Party. Secondly, I'd like to ask you to come to the regional conference that will be happening in Coventry probably in a week or two's time. Thirdly, I'd like to ask you, we need, before our stewards, our volunteers can leave here, we have to pick up all the bits of paper, all the leaflets. So could I ask you to just pick up any leaflets you've got and either take them home or just put them on the end chair of your row, just to make that a little bit quicker for people. Some of us will be going to the Squirrel pub for a drink and to continue the discussion. If you're not familiar, you go out the front door to the main roads in front of you, you go left and you'll see it. It's 100 yards. Finally, I'd just like to thank all 5 of our speakers. I'd like to thank every one of you for coming and all of those who've asked questions and made points. And I'm sorry for those we didn't quite have time for. And finally, let's just have one last round of applause for our speakers, for you, and for a new party of the working class.
Thank you so much, John. Thank you for chairing, John.
Can you be generous in the buckets as you leave for the money to go to the families of the Birmingham strikers and for medical aid for Palestinians?
Thank you so much for your pressure.
That's all, Chris.
I don't think it's...
I'm on. Okay. Yeah, you need to go on Friday. Yeah, you need to. See you later.